All right, and we are back live talking yet again about the absolute, utter, miserable failure that is the current Los Angeles City Attorney, Hydee Feldstein Soto. And I'm going to give you a new perspective explaining exactly why Hydee is just such a terrible prosecutor, such a terrible public servant, and why, frankly, in my opinion, just based off her repeat pattern of behavior during her entire tenure as a Los Angeles city attorney, why she has just such utter contempt and disdain for the public, the very same public that she swore an oath to defend, she swore an oath to protect, and yet she is repeatedly not doing that. And I want to give a different angle to the previous Los Angeles Fire Department chief, Kristen Crowley, who was frankly very clearly unjustly fired. And it was, at the end of the day, just a repeat pattern of negligence on the part of Mayor Karen Bass. And while many people have talked about just how miserable of a failure Karen Bass is, the point is that Karen Bass cannot get away with being such a miserable failure for a mayor, for a public servant, unless she's allowed to have her repeat pattern of bad behavior go unpunished, go without being prosecuted in a court of law, and being held accountable in the legal sense. Because if she continues to behave as negligent, as reckless, and as hateful as she is to her constituents, aka Angelinos, members of the public, then frankly, the behavior of Mayor Karen Bass is something that doesn't matter what she does next. If she fires another police chief, for example, who was investigating her, or fires a fire department chief, because all of them point out how negligent that Bass is. There's actually a protocol that many people might not know, might not understand, when a presiding public servant, a presiding public official, especially the elected one, actually can face very severe repercussions for that pattern of the behavior. And one of those people that can actually hold a complete incompetent and malicious moron like Bass accountable in a court of law is actually the Los Angeles City Attorney. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how and why that is. So to take a step back, I'll just give a background for those that don't understand or know just who Kristen Crowley is. She was the previous Los Angeles Fire Department chief, and she was fired after the Palisades fires broke out that devastated much of LA, basically. That's in a nutshell, that's what happened. And the reason why she was fired is because, well, Mayor Bass was literally overseas, pretended to not know that a major crisis was going to happen. There was many precursors, and she had access to lots of information and had been given notice as such that it was expected that a very severe crisis was going to break out. And yet, instead of taking notice and actually doing her due diligence to stay in the area, despite having all of that proper notice, not only by LAFD, but various other members that advise the office of the mayor, Karen Bass decided to pander to political supporters overseas. She was in Ghana at the time, just partying it up. This is a common theme of hers, where she just travels the world and pretends that LA is not a complete dumpster fire, thanks in very large part to her policies and her utter deliberate mismanagement and her utter contempt for the members of the public. And so that happened, that major crisis happened, and the LAFD was really left with their legs completely cut out from underneath them, without any sort of support, any sort of rallying on the part of the mayor. The mayor played it off again that she had no idea that the handling of that crisis Bass tried to spin it as saying it was actually the Chief Crowley who mismanaged the entire thing, then it was all her fault. And as such, that's why she had to fire Chief Crowley, because Crowley was just such an incompetent moron that she didn't do her job. When in reality, the exact opposite is true. It's literally blasted all over social media, and there's even tons of coverage where Bass is even going so far as to delete public records, particularly her call logs and messages from her government phone, in order to hide her tracks, which is utterly ridiculous. But of course it's happening. Of course, why wouldn't it? Right? This is LA, one of the most, if not the most, corrupt area in all of America, if not all of planet Earth. So that's the background. That's essentially the narrative that Bass has given for why she's fired Chief Crowley. And Chief Crowley was not perfect, but the way she handled the crisis was very formidable. She did a fantastic job for basically having absolutely zero support, zero resources on the part of the mayor. But where it gets interesting is what's happening now. So she got fired back in February, and I was browsing through a couple of articles from KTLA and LA Times, and I saw that they did something that just was not right. And KTLA particularly really butchered the reporting on this. So they incorrectly reported that Crowley is suing the city, and that's not what happened. So the way to actually sue the city first is you have to officially file a complaint, which is a very particular complaint. It's an administrative complaint with the clerk's office. That complaint then gets handed over to the mayor's office, as well as to the city council, as well as to the city attorney's office. And they essentially have analysts, councils review it, and they make a determination on what they want to do. Usually about 60 days for them to reply. That's a time window that they'll generally reply back to you. And usually they have in total about 6 months, actually, really. And when you get a reply, inevitably, pretty much every time you're going to get denied for your claim. Your complaint is either going to get totally ignored, or they'll just send you back a letter on the very last day saying, go kick rocks, screw you, we're denying your entire complaint in total, all your allegations are false, and you're not going to get a single thing out of us. But that's a necessary part in prosecuting the city on a civil claim in court. So what she did first is she's just simply filed an administrative complaint. And so what you see the title here is that she's suing the city. It's just not correct. She obviously, and I hope she does, and actually brings it in a court of law. But she hasn't sued. Kristen Crowley, the ex-LAFD chief, has not actually sued the city of LA just yet. And I actually verified this by conducting a search. See here. Here it is. I actually verified this by conducting a search on the LA Court Connect, or lacourt.org. And she hasn't actually filed any sort of unemployment civil claim just yet. So that's false. She has not sued the city just yet. Kristen Crowley just simply filed an administrative complaint. And it's important to understand how that process works. So that's where things currently stand. I do have the complaint in full, as well as the exhibits of that complaint that was filed. And so I was actually reached out to by a couple people when I tweeted out that, hey, this is not correct. There's no cases involved in Superior Court with Kristen Crowley. There's no actual civil case just yet. I hope there will be. Obviously, it looks like she's ramping up for one. She has lawyers that are representing her who filed the administrative complaint on her behalf. But that does not mean that there's a case yet. She has not sued the city. It's just a simple complaint form. I'll actually show you how that works. So here on my document cloud, I have uploaded both the complaint as well as the exhibits that she attached. And I'll show you just very briefly the complaint. So this is what's called a claim for damages, an administrative complaint, again, where you're basically just pleading to the office to take action without having to go in a court of law. I've actually gone through and done this myself when I was going through my court case that ultimately I was acquitted of. And so this is the form that you actually file. And it's very simple. It actually is about 2 pages total. So very simple fields. You just enter your name. And it even has a section in case, say, you were involved in a car accident and the vehicle that hit you was some sort of city vehicle, like, for example, from the LADWP. This is where that would all get encapsulated. And then they have the actual complaint itself. And what they're listing here is this is pretty much a lawsuit. The actual causes of action are that she was retaliated against and she was unjustly fired. But this is the actual complaint. And so it's quite long in total. I believe it's about 430 pages. I'm not going to read. Again, like I said, I'm not going to read that to you guys. But if you do want to see both the complaint as well as the exhibits, you can visit my document cloud link. I ended up posting about it on my Twitter, and you can see all of the exhibits there. As this progresses, I'll continue uploading documents here so that you guys can follow along for yourselves. And also you can skip the fees associated with getting access to these records. The best part is once these are uploaded to document cloud, it actually makes the entire document search friendly. All the contents, for example, in here, document cloud parses that. So when you go to search on Google for any of these keywords, you'll actually see it immediately pop up. And similarly, you can go to document cloud as well and search for individual files, either by file name or by user. You can just look me up, and I have several other public projects up there too. Again, it's all free for you guys to view at any time. But anyway, that's what she's done so far. Now, how exactly does the Los Angeles City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto enter into this picture? Well, it just so happens that, and I'm actually going to go to my Twitter here. It just so happens that this is actually what I want to show you guys. When a city official acts negligently and completely butchers their responsibilities in office, that is clear grounds for prosecution by the Los Angeles City Attorney. The Los Angeles City Attorney's office has complete and total authority, jurisdiction, and the resources, and a literal department inside that is supposed to prosecute corruption and negligence on the part of the city. AKA, if city officials are doing some criminal shit, if they're doing all sorts of illegal shit, and if they're just completely ignoring the law and policies and ordinances and just behaving however they want to, there are actual things in place that the city attorney's office, in addition to the district attorney's office, can actually prosecute these officials in court and hold them accountable. It is not just a magic get out of jail free card just because they work for the city. The district attorney and the city attorney's office literally are supposed to, and as well as have the power to, actually prosecute corrupt and negligent officials. And so in the scenario of Karen Bass unjustly firing the LAFD chief, that is a very clear-cut case of negligence. whereby Mayor Karen Bass's qualified immunity is stripped because there is no policy or law that ever supports a presiding mayor of Los Angeles taking, and knowingly so, again, the important part is that Mayor Karen Bass was notified very well ahead of time, weeks and months ahead of time, that this crisis was looming, that they were expecting it. It was going to be a big one, and that LAFD and all other first responders needed all the help they can get, and to get the message out to the people, and just to make sure that Angelenos are kept safe. She was advised on this, and yet still, despite having all that information ready and available, she decided to say, nah, I'm going to take a vacation overseas and not be here to protect and serve the very same members that voted me into office, the very same people, the members of the public that I swore an oath to defend. And so that is absolutely grounds for the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office to prosecute Karen Bass at a very bare minimum, a claim of negligence. It is not a protected activity for just because you work for the government for you to completely and recklessly ignore your duties, ignore your oath, ignore your responsibilities, and then have the audacity to also spin a web of lies, a completely and easily provable one at that, a false narrative that the LAFD chief, somehow she was the one responsible for all of the negligence, that she was the one that somehow butchered the entire handling of the fire that happened. It's just not true. And in fact, it is the duty, legally and ethically, of Hydee Feldstein Soto. And I just realized I misspelled her name, so I'm going to make sure I change that here so that the SEO keeps up the keyword, picks up the keywords. But it is her legal and ethical duty and responsibility to prosecute corrupt city officials, including the mayor, when shit like this hits the fan. This is literally what she is supposed to do, and she literally has a department that is supposed to prosecute these exact issues, and she's not doing it. She has instructed her deputies to not prosecute, and we know that thanks to the Michelle McGinnis discovery, where we saw that Hydee Feldstein Soto has issued out memos that that say we do not prosecute corporate defendants, aka anybody that is from the government or developers. We will not go after them. And instead, who does Hydee go after? She goes after her political opponents. She goes after poor people over utterly useless issues like noise abatements. She goes after the impoverished. She will not go after the clear demonstrated case of negligence exhibited by Karen Bass, despite having countless advisors well ahead of time tell her you should not be leaving the area. There's a looming crisis happening, and the people need you to be here for you to execute your duties that you swore an oath to, and to help and protect and serve them. They need you in this time of crisis, and you had the audacity to leave the country and pretend like you didn't know, and pretend like it was somebody else's fault when it wasn't. And so the fact that we have not seen Hydee Feldstein Soto, and the fact that we have not seen Nathan Hochman prosecute, is a very clear sign that you will never get the current district attorney or the current city attorney to ever hold anybody accountable for their gross negligence. It is the good old boys club. It is as corrupt as can be, and they will continue to try and spin a false narrative that it is somebody else's fault, and that somehow because you can mess up in such an egregious fashion that it is totally fine and acceptable, and that how dare the people ever speak out on such an issue and complain that their very same elected public officials are not doing their damn job. And in fact, I want you guys to listen on some of the financial reporting that Kenneth Mejia is talking about here with liability payouts, because it's exactly this kind of crap, this kind of gross negligence exhibited by high-level city officials such as Karen Bass, as well as that of Hydee Soto, for not executing her duty, her legal and ethical duty to prosecute corrupt officials and protect and serve Angelenos. It is very clear that Hydee has contempt for the public. It is very clear that Hydee will not defend the very same people that elected her to that office, we the people. And it is very clear that Hydee is one of the biggest contributing factors to why LA has such high liability payouts, because she will not hold any corrupt official accountable. And when that happens, you set precedents for future patterns of behavior to also occur, where corruption and malice continue to happen without any sort of punishment. And instead, she chooses to go after those that cannot defend themselves or over the absolute most petty, non-important issues ever. Despite having an entire department, literally an entire department, just like the DA has the Public Integrity Division that's supposed to prosecute this kind of crap, so too does the city attorney's office. And in fact, this is an issue at the Sherman Oaks Homeowner Association, where Hydee's own supporters questioned her and confronted her directly. Why is your office not cleaning up government corruption? It is your responsibility and your legal duty, Hydee. And they asked her straight up, why is your office not targeting government corruption and you're letting them get away with it? And so this video that I want to play for you guys comes from Kenneth Mejia's Twitter post, where he's talking about exactly why Los Angeles continues to stay broke. And financially, it is because the extremely high liability payouts, utterly absurd liability payouts that are that have absolutely bankrupted and financially destroyed the city. And I sincerely doubt this is something that the city will be able to come back from in quite a long time. But I just want to play this for you guys. I think it's also hilarious. But he's not perfect, but man, he's super entertaining to listen to, and he does a good job with sticking to the facts. So I want to play this for you guys, and let's see if we get any audio here.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Contempt Mejia, here to tell you how the city of Los Angeles stays broke in 90 seconds or a little bit longer. So, if you don't know, the city of LA has faced 2 years in a row of budget deficits. Why? Because of these massive liability payouts, everyone. This is your city government. We have paid over $500 million. $500 million in 2 years. It's unsustainable. What the hell is the city of Los Angeles doing about these liabilities? Are we just going to keep paying these out? Are people just going to keep getting hurt? Well, that is why we launched an audit on the city's risk management policies and practices on reducing harm and these liability payouts. You don't know, these liability payouts are some of the biggest reasons why the city is undergoing layoffs of city employees, why departments are getting cut, why services for you all are getting cut, why your streets and your sidewalks look like dookie, why city facilities that you walk into look like dookie, why our child care centers got shut down, why senior meals got canceled. Y'all, these liability payouts are unsustainable. But I also want to show you this chart. This chart shows you 2 years worth since these budget deficits have began of departments getting their budgets increased and decreased, their operating budgets. You see which departments got increased and which departments got decreased. You'd see that the youth development department, the department that handles things for the youth, providing for the youth opportunities, programs, they got gutted over a third of their budget. Street services, over a quarter of their budget. Y'all, this is bad. Please pay attention to what your city government is doing. This is your money. This is your tax dollars. All right?
So that's the end of the video, but in a nutshell, that's exactly why the city of LA continues to stay broke. And when he was talking about risk management, this actually includes Hydee's office, not just the mayor, not just the LAPD, but every city agency, and what exactly they're doing, and not just doing, but what actual formal written policies they have in place to mitigate risks and make sure that they not only mitigate them when they happen, but to help prevent them. So, for example, when a corrupt city government officials acts in a negligent manner, is the city prosecuting them to make sure that there's no settlement agreement payouts to those that were to people that could be harmed because they already handled and punished that bad behavior and targeted that official's qualified immunity so that the negligence is shown as such using tax dollars, using the existing resources of city attorney deputies who are supposed to prosecute such issues without the need for outside counsel, and for that specific city official to pay out of their own pocket for their own defense due to their negligent claim, their negligent behavior. That's exactly what Hydee is supposed to be doing. She's not doing it, and it's why city officials continue to run rampant. It's why even when Mejia was trying to push for an audit of Inside Safe, Bass wouldn't do it. And on that same token, Hydee did nothing to prosecute Bass or any of her staffers to release those financial records, despite that being a legal and ethical responsibility of Hydee and her office to do. And so this is the great shame, the great stain, and the great toxicity that Hydee continues to leave upon Los Angeles. She continues to show her utter disdain, her utter hatred, her utter contempt for the public, for those that dare criticize her and the city government. And it's absolutely disgusting. It's like she can't help but continue to throw up all over herself and utterly continue destroying and laying waste to the city of LA. And I'll wrap it up with this. Never forget that yet another legacy that Hydee has is a very well documented pattern of not prosecuting people who politically support her, as well as the affiliates and agents of those political organizations. Let us never forget that May 7th, 2024, Hydee's office was informed, and not only by members of the public, but by LAPD, that an actual child predator showed up to Fountain Avenue over by the Scientology building. And there's undeniable proof on video where that individual's property was actually found behind a locked gate, a private property owned by Scientology. This agent of Scientology that we colloquially call Wendell. The only way that Wendell could have gotten access to that space was if they were personally escorted by a Scientologist. And despite literal video evidence showing that this Scientology agent was hired and showed up on behalf of Scientology to threaten with malicious intent and even commit indecent exposure to a minor, that Hydee let that entire scenario go. With undeniable proof, she never prosecuted them. And so this is the legacy that Hydee leaves for herself, for the city, and and her disdain and hatred and contempt for the public, for we the people, continues to reach ever higher heights. And so I'll leave you guys with that. I'll see if there's any comments, and if not, I gotta wrap it up here. But all right, that's all I got. So, yet another shameful display of Hydee and her gross negligence of not doing her job, not prosecuting corrupt officials, and she only has herself to blame. She has the authority, she has the power and she makes damn sure to let you know that she has that power, and she'll happily wield it for her political backers. But for anybody else, you know, they be damned. So anyway, appreciate you guys. See you on the next one. Peace out.